Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and with me is...
Sal, as always. Yeah, Sal.
Mondo Salrician.
Yes, yes.
We're going to continue to call him that until he eventually breaks and just accepts that
one of these days it'll
your
happen,
name
maybe.
is Mondo. So, anyways, we're going to plug the email real quick. DasWolfman88@gmail.com. DasWolfman88@gmail.com. Send us your stories.
We want to tell them. We want to tell them.
We want to hear them.
Yeah, yes,
we want to know.
Too.
We
definitely I definitely want to hear them.
We want to know what's going on beyond the veil, where you're at, behind the veil.
Actually, I would say under the veil or something
beneath the veil,
yeah,
around the veil,
yeah,
some kind of
Yeah, it's definitely not the normal.
Whatever's going on in your veil of the world.
There you go. That's it.
So when our last episode, man, gosh, we got a lot of stuff to cover today.
Good thing we got Paranormal Potluck today.
Yeah,
it's just going to be a plethora of different things.
I'm just a little tired.
Yeah. So what did you do last night?
Well, I didn't do Bigfoot encounters. That's for sure.
What happened?
You remember how we talked about I was supposed to do Vic's show and do Bigfoot encounters?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
well, I guess the wires got crossed because
instructions.
I got my
fouled up a little bit.
Let me explain what happened, ladies and gentlemen. I was supposed to do Vic Cundiff's show last night on a last minute. It's one of those things where a fighter got hurt. Can you go in there and get beat
you need
up?
a backup. Yeah.
So I was recording all day. Okay, to try to get these episodes together, to get them crunched and get them good and crunchy for you guys. And so what happened was Vic sends me an email and he tells me, I need you to help me out and do a stand-in. And if you got any stories, but he didn't say Dogman. I thought for whatever reason that I thought I read Bigfoot. And so I just, because I had so many stuff I was sifting through and I thought, okay, I guess I could do that. So I told him I'd help you out. I'll do some Bigfoot, Well, I guess because me and Vic are both very busy doing all the recordings and stuff, I guess that, somewhere I thought I read Bigfoot, and when I responded, then he didn't say, no, not Bigfoot, whatever. So I get on the show after recording all day with you and Tony and Anthony. And so what we end up doing, I'm like getting ready for this Bigfoot, and I got all this material ready for the Bigfoot, and then I start talking about it, and he goes, whoa, wait. You know how he talks?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, wait. This is Dogman. And I'm like, what do you mean, Dogman? Like, and he goes, no, this is for Dogman encounters tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So let me switch gears and, let me do something else.
Well, hey, lesson learned for next time. If he ever calls you on the fly, you could write yourself some notes and say, in case he wants Bigfoot stories, here they are.
Yeah, and he's asked me to come on the Bigfoot show, and I thought that's what we were doing was I was going to start talking some
the
Bigfoot.
Mix-up is understandable.
So I ended up with Dogman, and so I had to give him what I had, which I gave him one of our stories that I was going to tell on the show, which I still will.
All right.
And then I gave him one that we had gone over in a previous episode, and then I also had a couple others that I was going to, like I said, put on here, but it doesn't matter. I did what I could, and I gave him what I had. You still got
tons of notebooks with stories on them.
Yeah, but not as deep with the Dogman, because I don't really like to go over the material that I've already covered, even if it's been on another show.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
Yeah, because it was kind of like I don't...
Well, unless they request that particular story, I guess you could say.
Yeah, if it's something that that I've been asked to do, because when I did that story last night about the werewolves looking creatures from Hiko, that area, I couldn't remember whether I had already done it or not on Vic's show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Vic didn't remember because we've done a dozen episodes together, so I couldn't. I was like, well, I'm gonna do it. I mean, it's just I'm gonna say it. And so I did, and then we talked a little bit about our show.
Oh, great!
And so I was just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna. So I winged it as best I could. Told one of the stories, but I couldn't remember the. I think I might have gotten mixed up on the origin of the one story. I can't remember exactly. If it was Scorpion's boss or the people he introduced me to. But anyway, I gave the story, And so that was kind of interesting that I just and I told Vic afterwards, I said, look, it's probably not my best work. I gave you what I had, but I was just very tired. And he goes, oh, I appreciate it, you coming on or whatever. And so if you listen to that show, please don't hold me to that being my best, because I was so tired. I was like bleary-eyed. My voice felt like it was going out.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, we did put in a lot of time behind the mic that day, recording shows and all this good stuff. Yeah,
it was, and so, but I enjoy doing this. This is something I enjoy doing. And
it's a way to lay it down for posterity.
Lay it down. That's right.
That way, people can always go back and listen.
And as always, we are honored for you to join us. We want you to be here to come and listen to the show. I just want to start off real quick, the little people thing or whatever. I will go back over that. That is something that we're going to revisit at some point.
Yeah, well, this Paranormal Potluck. So
But you know what? Today we got Paranormal Potluck, but since we did do the little people last show,
the last installment,
we're not gonna go over those stories. But I do have. There's so many I could do here. I'm going to start off with that ocean faring encounter.
Oh, hey, yeah, that one definitely. You mentioned it. And all you gave me was a snippet, so you had me, like hooked like a kid with candy.
Yeah, this is a friend, one of my really good friends' sister, her best friend. This happened to her, and I actually did get to talk to this individual at one point. She gave me this story 4 or 5 years ago, and it actually, because I was trying to go through my archives and archives is my notebooks,
well, you
and
got a lot of them.
And I found that story because I was like, I know I have a story about a sea being, if you want to call
Creature
it. I don't. Yeah, sea
sorts.
monster. I don't know what you would call it. I guess it would be a monster. So we'll get into that story. So let's we'll do that one. So what ended up happening was they went on a what do you call it? A deep sea fishing trip, and they see something really strange. Something came up to the boat and was kind of like hovering in the water. They said it was about 9 feet long.
Okay.
If they had to estimate, her and her boyfriend at the time was now married to her, but they saw this thing and it was smooth. It looked smooth skin, but it was very obviously reptilian. It had a very pronounced and long, elongated snout. And this thing they said it almost had like a pattern like to it, like almost like how a turtle would look, but it didn't have a shell.
Oh, so it's kind of like, okay, I see what you're saying.
They said that it had like these little weird octagonal patterns almost, like on its,
but no shell.
Like the scales.
Right, yeah.
So I guess that would be the scales. The scales were clearly visible, but there was no shell, and it was really long, and it.
What'd the head look like?
Well, the head was elongated, almost like an alligator, but it didn't have legs like an alligator or croc like we would see.
What he had, like the flippers?
Like a crocodilian, because I asked that question.
Oh, yeah.
It had like these flipper-like appendages with these little claws on the end of it.
Oh, wow, that's strange.
And it was just kind of hovering, and then it dove, and then it came back up, and everybody on the boat was like, wow, whoa, what is that? Well, I guess the captain or whatever, the guy that was in charge of the little fishing trip, he said that every once in a while they would see one of these things, but they didn't know what it was. And they had actually marine biologists who had gone out there and looked for this thing a few times, but I guess they never found it.
Right.
But yeah, that was very interesting. And they said that at one point it opened its mouth, and the mouth and the head were very crocodilian-like.
Oh, wow.
But it was smooth. I don't know how to describe to you the way that they were describing it any better than they, because they couldn't really tell much. It was just, it was green. It was like a greenish, mostly green, but then kind of like a lighter color, like
what kind of maybe some browns.
I'm trying to remember what they said. It was beige. Beige. That was the word they used.
Wow, it must have.
It was like beige, greenish beige.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So I don't know what that was, and that was very odd. And 9 foot, and the guy that was on the boat, one of the people that was helping.
Was it the captain or
no? There was another guy, I guess, that was helping. According to them, they said that he had been out on many little expeditions or whatever, and he said that when they do see these things, that one is actually a smaller one.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. And what's weird is like I don't know what that is. You can go look it up and see if it's some sort of prehistoric creature from some, I don't know. Who knows what
that
could
would be my
in the
first
ocean?
guess.
You know, I know I read a story, and I can't even remember what publication or what it was that I read. I just read a story about a seagoing creature that actually attacked 3 guys. They were out fishing,
right?
And something capsized their boat, and just gonna throw this out there because you can make your own conclusions. And it was off the coast of Florida.
Interesting. You know,
and one guy. What?
No. Keep going, brother. You got me going.
One guy that all 3 of them tried to swim for shore because they weren't that far out.
Okay.
You could see the shore according to the story, but whatever this thing was managed to grab 2 of them before the 3rd guy finally got to shore.
Wow.
The description that guy gave was a long snake-like neck, and it almost looked like just a long giant anaconda with a body attached to it.
Wow.
With these big flippers. Sounds a lot like what people describe Loch Ness Monster. Yeah. And so that creature, that intrigued me. That story was pretty interesting, and that's not something that somebody gave me. Like I said, I read that somewhere. I could go back and try to find it or whatever, but I remember reading that, and I thought, wow, that's terrifying. Very much like a plesiosaur, but this creature, whatever it was, did not sound like a plesiosaur.
Yeah.
But you do get stories of dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the ocean, we have not even, for lack of better words, really scratched the surface, because it's just so vast. We know more about outer space.
You know what? It comes to that. I'm glad. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not going in the ocean and scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's.
You know what? We go to the beach.
Yeah,
I'm okay with being in the pool.
Oh,
I don't need to go out there and be,
You've got nothing to prove, right?
Walrus that can be snatched up by jaws.
Be out there floating like a little snack for something.
You know what?
That big.
I'm a little snack, yeah, to them. I'm a big, person, but some of these sharks and things just get way too big for my taste. I can
only imagine what they were.
I'd fight a little shark.
Oh,
like if there was one of them little ones, I'd beat it up. I beat it up like I did people at the club.
But not Jaws, right?
No, I'm not going to fight anything that's like my size or bigger that can swim that way, move around. Have you seen these things thrash around? Like, I know you, Tony, you said that when we were Port Aransas that you would go jogging at night on the beach and you would hear splashing and something mixing it up, some kind of UFC battle going on in the ocean right there. Right off the shore. They come right up to at night. Yeah, those sharks come right up to, and I've seen video footage of the helicopters hovering over.
Yeah. And
these swimmers are just oblivious to these creatures that are just
around, yeah. Well, it's just the whole deal with that story. They're describing this creature that's got the basic shape of a sea turtle, but no shell. That reminds me of that one.
But it was elongated though,
right? It was a little bit longer than. Well, yeah, you're right.
9 foot.
Yeah, that's nuts. And no shell. It reminds me of this one picture I saw on the internet, and I usually keep up with a lot of the new discoveries of prehistoric sea creatures, and they called it, I believe, if I remember correctly, they called it Predator X or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But it's a sea creature, and it's, to me, when I saw that picture, I thought, oh, this is a variant of the plesiosaur, but it looked more, I guess, to me, I looked at that picture and I said, I think this could be described as the mix between a true crocodile and a plesiosaur, but doesn't have the big long neck, but the snout. And I said, man, that's nuts.
Well, and this encounter took place, I think, back in 1997.
Oh, wow.
And so, according to them, there were several people that had actually taken some photos with like their cameras, like a few people had. Right. But who knows where those photos are or what happened to them? Heck, they might be floating around the internet.
Yeah, for all we know. And I just got to thinking about it. If this, this thing is like, the mix between a crocodile and a plesiosaur,
or a crocodile and
the size that I saw in that article, I'm pretty sure they probably ate the plesiosaur. You know, I'm pretty sure that's my
Predator
guess.
X, you mean?
Yeah. Did I use that word? But yeah, that's
what you're talking about.
Yeah, that thing in the ocean. But again,
so you're thinking that this could be like a baby Predator X?
Yeah, I mean,
wow. I'll have to look at the Predator X and see what it looks like because I'm not real sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, you just look it up.
I've heard about it. I think I saw I know.
I'm one of those weirdo nerds.
I got my nephew
like
here in the studio. I know that I took my nephews, like him and his little brothers, to see some sort of oceanic video at the big old Bob Bullock Museum here in Austin, the IMAX. And I fell asleep twice trying to get through it. I never could watch it. Remember that, Anthony?
I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and so I could not get through that video.
In all seriousness, though, you know,
was Predator X on there?
Yeah,
and I missed it, huh? I must have been snoozing.
Well, in all seriousness, though, this creature being out there, I would lean to yes, it's out there. I would not say they're extinct because you look at the coelacanth or coelacanth or however you want to say it.
Coelacanth, yeah, off the coast of Africa.
Yeah, and off the coast of Borneo. When they found them, they said this was like in the mid '80s. They found one, or they caught one off the coast of Borneo, and then after they did more extensive research, they found a school. And this was the research was later on, but after they caught the initial one, so that right there blew their whole. It's been extinct for millions of years and yada, yada, yada.
Coelacanth University? They found a school out there?
No, they found a school of coelacanth, those prehistoric fish.
You know what? Speaking of Africa, there are reports of a Mokele Mbembe.
Yeah, dinosaur.
And it looks like a Brontosaurus. But it is also a smaller version of the Brontosaurus, but it's a very mean, what I believe would be evolutionarily a descendant of the Brontosaurus.
Or a variant species.
Or a very small variant species. And I say small, it's twice the size of an elephant, folks. But the Brontosaurus was like the size of like 4 or 5 city buses or something. So, we're talking about these weird creatures anomalies.
But it's all in all seriousness, it just points
supposedly
back
a very mean creature too.
Oh yeah.
That it actually will attack and kill hippos and rhinos and elephants, and it will pretty much it claims a territory and it's been seen crushing crocodiles, and according to the people from the Congo,
locals,
the Congo,
the locals.
I've heard a lot of stories about that, and nobody's called or given me one or sent me one, but I've just read about it.
Yeah, but this is interesting. I've always been fascinated with the cryptid sea creatures. We don't get enough of it out there, but that was really interesting. It's right off they were out there off the coast of Galveston. Yeah, that's amazing, man.
And if anybody ever goes to Galveston, you got to check out Moody Gardens.
Yeah. Go out there and have fun with it.
Moody Gardens is a really cool place, but it is expensive. Like by the time and it's so vast and big, there's a lot to do there. But once there's a huge, beautiful aquarium there. When I went there was like a lot of screaming kids and stuff, and it was the summertime, but a couple years ago. But I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it, and so, anyways, moving on here. Yeah. But staying in the realm of reptiles, of reptile creatures. This is a story that I wanted to throw out there. This came out of Indiana.
Oh.
And it was in a cornfield, according to the report I got. And it looked like to me, well, let me just go back and tell the story instead of getting too far ahead and analyzing it. You don't even know what it is yet. Some kids were playing and they were running around through a cornfield. I know I've done that. And my great uncle, we go out there and play in cornfield and wheat fields, whatever, doing things, we probably shouldn't have been doing, but running around, messing with stuff. But anyways, these kids were playing out in a cornfield and they stumbled upon what looked like a creature that they said looked like it was asleep. And from every description I got from this thing, it looked like a velociraptor.
Whoa!
And there were like 4 or 5 kids that claimed that they saw it in a distance, and then one of them kind of got brave, and then a couple more got brave. They described it as being with it slumped over, kind of like it was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 foot tall.
Oh wow!
But then it woke up, and it chased them a brief way.
Oh wow!
And then it ran back to wherever it was in the cornfield. They saw it turn and run back toward whatever it was. And one of the children actually said that there was what he saw, an egg
Oh, that's
when it got up
what?
because they scattered in different directions, and it kind of just like I would think that would be the best strategy. You're with 4 or 5 of your little friends, and you come upon you come upon Jurassic Park, you know, and it decides to chase you. You go in all these different directions, and the little reptilian brain maybe decides that it's not going to chase any of them and goes back to the eggs.
Yeah,
but that's kind of what I gathered. Now I'll give you a description of it. They said that they saw very pronounced talons. They tried to give the best description as when it stood up, it was as tall as the corn. And I don't know how tall that is. I don't know how tall that would be. They just said that when the oldest kid was 12.
Yeah.
So I don't know how tall the corn would be, but they said that it was very tall, towered over the oldest kid.
Oh wow.
It was a 12-year-old boy, and it began to chase them and then just turned and went back to whatever it was doing, which one of the kids said he saw an egg.
You know,
but the description.
Having, you know, grown up country like you, a little bit different experiences and stuff, but my granddad grew corn, both of them did. You know, that was definitely something
very common.
Yeah, very common.
My grandparents even grew it in a garden too.
Yeah.
When they quit.
But once they get, you know, usually from what I always remember, and by the time I was full grown, corn was approximately, when it was ripe and ready, you know, for picking, it was usually about a foot taller than I, and I'm 6 feet tall.
So that's probably, I was thinking maybe 6.5 feet, but I wasn't for sure.
You know, so and those are my experiences. I'm not going to say that's the gospel truth, but when the corn.
What were these kids doing in that corn? Children of the corn? Really?
Knows,
and then you run into a dinosaur. That's what happens. See, kids, you want to go out there with Malachi and the other guy. What's his name?
You got me thinking about that movie.
And then that's what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe they were out there doing something they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yes. In all seriousness, though, I mean, having
he wants
that
you
event,
to, Malachi.
You know?
I don't remember what the
that event was just that event.
Well,
is
that's a
just
good
amazing.
one. What is the guy's name from the Children of the Corn? The leader. Remember the little? That was such a creepy looking kid.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But whenever she sent me this story, we actually kind of joked back and forth about.
You did the whole Children of the Corn.
I did actually say that was kind of funny. She said the children were in the corn, and I'm like, I'm like the children of the corn.
Yeah,
and so
makes you think twice, but that's the encounter, though, right? That's that.
Yeah,
event.
and so I guess one of these children was actually her child, and then the others were cousins. They were all playing, and so. Anyways, she sent that story, and they did actually. Then there's more to it. They did actually have an encounter with something that ran across the road.
Oh,
like a few days after that.
Oh,
that actually kind of vindicated these children because her father, the woman that sent the story in, her father actually saw it.
Oh, he got a visual.
Yeah, he and I guess his wife didn't have the wife with him. It was just him and her brother, which I guess would be his son. So yeah. So actually, you know,
so more visual proof of
these
what
two guys
kids
were coming back from town and they saw something run across the road. Now the description was in the headlights. It was like a brownish red color. Mm-hmm. That's what I read, was a brownish red color. Very prominent teeth, very, very prominent claws on the forearms. This is the description. The forearms, according to the children and the grown-ups, was that it was very thin, elongated, skinny arms, but they were elongated and they weren't real short.
Right.
But it had a very prominent claws, and it looked like, in particular on the foot and on the hands, they had very prominent, like a prominent claw that was a little more pronounced. Yeah, if you would say, it'd stick out more than the others. And it wasn't like one of these things that like, oh look, to come to a screeching halt. No, they just saw it and they were like, wow, look at that. There's a dinosaur. And they kept going on their way. And they went on their way, and that was, they said, about 4 miles from their property. Wow.
You know, that's another thing that a lot of people don't ever really want to stop. I mean, I can only imagine how many. I mean, they don't want to stop. I know why they don't want to stop. But
I just got confirmation.
Yeah. So
it was Isaac.
It was Isaac. Oh, that's the name.
Was his name right. Isaac?
Yeah.
It was Isaac and Malachi. I remember his name being Isaiah or something like that. But you know what? Who knows with the Mandela effect? There you go. Mandela effect.
Who knows?
I just remember him like, hey, he wants you to, Malachi. And like that, the guy was like, no, you know, the red-haired kid.
Yeah.
That red-haired kid was he was
creepy.
disturbing. He was, both of them were very disturbing.
Together, that was really bad.
But I'm not going to lie, as a kid, I saw that and I wasn't afraid. I just wish that I could have been one of those cult leaders that could make and then because I had this idea that, look, hey, if I'm in control of all these other kids, I could have their toys.
No. Hey.
Because growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, and you know, it's weird. The first part of my life, then my dad got a pretty good job. Then we had a little bit of money, but before that, though, we were just poor, and I would watch other kids play with their toys. That was my entertainment.
There you go.
Because I would go and look in the window like Bigfoot at the neighbors
and
watch the kids play with their toys. Yeah, just kidding.
No, but in all seriousness, back to the story,
Tom,
man. This story, I'm over here just my wheels are turning, and I can only imagine. I mean, if the farmer, so to speak,
he should have killed it. That's what you should have done.
No,
kill it. Kill it with fire. That's how you deal with Jurassic animals, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I will say this: this creature is lucky that he's not in Central Texas, because somebody would have killed it. That's it. Yeah. Because around here they gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Now I did see this thing, and I did killed it.
Kill it, graveyard dead.
Kill it, graveyard dead.
But in all seriousness, it makes me wonder if any of the other neighboring people that lived on the neighboring farms or anything.
Yeah, I didn't get any more information than that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for that story. I'm sorry.
Man.
But moving down to Texas and staying with this theme for another story, can we do another reptile story, or do you guys want to get into something else that's this?
It's potluck.
It's potluck, so it's what we got. All right, so I'm going to give you another one. Now, down in that South Texas corridor, now what I mean by that is if you look on a map, from Alice, Texas, going down south to all the way down to Brownsville. If you ever head down that corridor, keep your eyes on the sky. Just kidding. You need to watch the road, okay? Yes, Pay attention to your driving. God, you people, come on. But seriously, if you watch the sky, there have been, now at this point, I've read of at least 4 different accounts of people seeing what looks like a pterodactyl.
Yeah, the big bird sightings.
The big bird, yeah. And I will get into that too.
Flying creature,
Flying creature, a big bird, I guess, would not be flying reptile. Now, this thing, they say, looks like a pterodactyl.
The quintessential.
Yeah, it doesn't, there's no feathers. They keep saying now that the dinosaurs have feathers or whatever. Well, when I remember Transformers as a kid, and I don't remember Grimlock or any of them having feathers. I just remember Slag and Sludge, and they did not have feathers, folks. I'm basing all my scientific research on a 1984 cartoon, all right? I'm just letting you know that's what I know, okay? I keeps it real. So anyway,
in all seriousness,
what ended up happening was this one story that I actually got from somebody. I don't remember. I was on some forum like a long time ago, like when the internet was like chat rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And somebody sent a story on there that said that they had seen what looked like a giant pterodactyl. So I wrote it down because I'm obsessed with the paranormal. I am obsessed with it. And so this story I got was in that corridor. Now, this happened just south of Alice, Texas. And I'm sure you know.
Yes.
This is what we in Texas call the valley, folks.
Yeah.
And now in the valley, it's a very predominantly Hispanic area of Texas, but for the most part, there are a lot of like wealthy Hispanic people down there, I guess you could say, because there's a lot of ranches.
There's lots of
farm and ranches and whatever you got down there. They used to in the valley grow a lot of grapefruits and oranges.
They still do. It's still big.
Not like it used to be though. No. When I was young, I'd go down there and visit, and there would be a bunch. And not now. Now it's like, because of the hard freezes. Yeah. Because it still gets cold in Texas. People don't realize that. And it even gets cold down there, and it was enough to where a few bad winters and they stopped. Yeah. So what ended up happening is, I guess a lot of that is now done in Mexico or whatever.
Yeah, it's still.
We're not going to get into a dissertation. Yeah. It's still there, but not in the way it used to be.
Yeah,
if I'm correct, I remember used to be able to see for vast, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point being about the fruit, there were stories that there were these flying creatures that would devour parts of the orchards, if you would say. Yeah, and so what's really messed up, like maybe that's why they quit doing it. No, I'm sure it had something to do with the cold. But anyway, these creatures were seen like eating, and some of the farmers would look at them as pests. And now this guy, his family had a farm down in the valley, but this creature that he was talking about was seen south of Alice, but there was a similar one that was seen near Brownsville.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's just right across from Matamoros in Mexico.
It's not a long stretch. I mean, Alice down to Brownsville, when you think about it,
flying
for a flying creature, I mean, that's not far.
How far is the Alice to Brownsville? Probably 2 hours?
Maybe, at tops.
Yeah. And so, anyways, and then there was another one that was right outside of Corpus Christi, and I was just down in Corpus Christi not too long ago. Beautiful area. I like that area. Port Aransas. I love Port Aransas. But anyway, that whole area right there was a flying cryptid that was seen. Now, the descriptions of these things tend to be like a brown color, but I've actually had people say that they looked almost like red, like the color of clay.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so when I've read these encounters, the head is like pointy. It's got like a point on its head, an elongated beak. I don't know about any teeth or anything like that, but I know that they're very big, the wingspan being like 12 to 15 feet. From what I've read, and that there's a tail.
Oh, that they actually have
there's like a tail that looks triangular.
Okay.
And they're all the same descriptions from what I have read. Now, folks, you might get on there and read something and be like, that ain't true. I read others that said that it was, it looked blue and
it had a stub for a tail.
Yeah, and whatever. So don't come back and front on me, all right? I'm just giving you the story, all right? I'm just giving you the type, all right? So anyways, this is a type of flying creature that is encountered down there in the valley. And so there have been several reports of that thing. Now, I know one in particular that I read that this kid was with his mom and dad, and I guess he was playing his Game Boy. I guess back in the old days it was Game Boy, whatever. And this thing swooped down and was like right there, almost eye level with them for a few seconds.
Oh, wow.
And then they saw it swoop down and pick up some sort of small creature, like I don't know what it was.
Quite possibly a rabbit. There's
maybe a lot of rabbits. Maybe it picked up some sort of small creature and then swooped back up into the air, and they were like, whoa, what was that?
He just caught him by surprise.
And him and his mother got the best look at it because his dad was driving and it was on their side of the car.
Oh, man. So, just staying on that topic, there's even reports in South Texas that there are feral monkeys out there.
Monkeys, yeah. I've heard of that. And then, of course, that brings to mind, what are they called? The rebobs out in California, the Northern California. I want to do something about that one day. I can do some research on it. But yeah, my wife was telling me about that. They're actually, if you look it up, I think it's called the rebobs. They're like a type of monkey, devil monkey, as they call them, up in Northern California. If anybody's got anything about that, let me know.
Is that something indigenous to California? Because the monkeys...
Well, there's a lot of monkeying going on in California, but we're not going to get into that. That's usually in L.A. and San Francisco, whatever.
No, but the South Texas, the monkey thing, they're feral. They broke loose, if you will. That's
Tell me it was a mad scientist that was messing with genetic manipulation.
They're monkeys of some sort.
It's just some sort of circus chimps that got loose or whatever.
Yeah, kind of like the feral hog thing that started here in Texas. Historically, the Spaniards, when they were colonizing, exploring and started to colonize these areas, Texas, all the way up to Kansas.
They weren't just
that area
colonizing, exploring. They were making the old world great again.
Whatever they were doing. But the point is there's a lot of times they would bring a lot of hogs with them and then turn them loose on the way.
That's how it started. Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, not to mention when the Comanches were in full swing and they would raid, settlements, farm settlements, you name it. A lot of times if they didn't kill off all the, livestock, a lot of them being pigs, because hogs are so easy they're hardy, they're easy to raise. You don't need a whole lot of them.
They can survive.
Yeah. So that coupled with that, them tearing it up, and then of course them hogs running loose, they turn feral. A lot of that stuff. That's how we got the problem.
Well, I wanted to get that you're talking about hogs.
Hogs, feral pigs.
I have a Hogzilla story for you.
Okay, is that really a cryptid though?
Oh well, when it's the size of a bull, it is.
I think we need to hear that one.
I think we do.
Yeah, let's go. Give it the story,
this
brother.
one, speaking of South Texas, I'm glad you said that.
Right.
And folks, that was just by chance that you said that, because
wow.
I was like, wow, that, you know, when we do the show, just so you know, we don't come in rehearsed and start whatever. This is not, we're
about
just,
the most rehearsed we do is just we make sure we know what topics we're going to cover.
that's about it. And then sometimes you'll have some questions for me.
Oh yeah.
We do the interview with somebody, but we don't even rehearse that. We're just kind of winging it, if you will. Pterodactyl
we're
winging
enjoying it. You know, we want everybody to feel like you're right here with us and these stories.
Well, hey, what was the Dinobot's name that was the pterodactyl? Swoop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, dude. Yeah, that's right. And Grimlock was the
Tyrannosaurus, the T-Rex.
Didn't really look like a T-Rex to me, though.
He was a metal T-Rex.
He was a metal T-Rex.
Yeah, I watched that
didn't have
show
feathers.
back in the
I mean,
days.
that's this. You know, you wake up one day and the dinosaurs have feathers, and you're like, "What is this? I want a featherless dinosaur world."
Made out
Is that
of
too much
metal.
to ask, scientists? God, do your job and just leave the feathers at home, dude. Get a parakeet if you want feathers.
Oh man.
I like my dinosaurs smooth, like a woman's legs, smooth
and metallic.
And well, no, I don't know what that's all about. You're getting into something weird over there, boy. Hey, that's all you. That's all you, brother. Let you make it. So let's talk about Hogzilla. We got Hogzilla. I got a guy that told me a story. Of course, South Texas, another weird corridor of Texas.
Yes.
Very big hog, and him and two guys were out hunting. They see some piglets, they see some sow, they see whatever, but they're looking for a big one, you know. And this thing comes out of the woods. They hear the trees like snapping, cracking, breaking, whatever. This was near Del Rio, Texas.
I know, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, and
very familiar.
I've heard some hogs out there, some hog stories. There's a nice, beautiful little lake out there, right there.
Yeah, Lake Amistad.
Yeah, very Amistad. But anyway, this hog came out of the underbrush, and they said that it was the size of a car.
Are you serious?
They said it was the size of a car, and they both decided they weren't going to shoot at it to make it angry because this Hogzilla. And I asked the guy, I was like, if you had to estimate. Now, this was a friend of my cousin's that I talked to, and I actually talked to him at a little get-together gathering, and he said, dude, it was unreal. Now, at one time, near my hometown, near Lake Granger, the biggest hog in Texas that had been shot up to that point was about 1,200 pounds. And he said this thing could have been two of those.
Wow.
Because he saw that when they shot that one, it was a friend of mine that not, he didn't shoot it, but he knew the guy that did, and it was like with this whole thing or whatever. And so anyways, this hog that he was talking about, he said that he got a look at that hog.
Wow.
And he said it was two of those.
So was this thing, what type of car did he estimate that it was the size of?
He said it was like a small SUV.
So easily
big ridge on its back, a ridgeback hog. We hear about those. I mean, and he said that it was just enormous, like it was just ungodly. If you were in a vehicle and this thing came out, and he said there's no way you would be trying, you wouldn't even feel safe in the vehicle.
Oh.
So they were up a tree and just like, you know what, I'm up here now, and that thing's down there, and that's where we're going to stay until it disappeared and it went back into the brush. But it was just a humongous.
Well, out there in the Del Rio area, when you think about it, those of you that are familiar with that area, I tell you what, it's Del Rio, and in order for you to get anywhere, if you start heading north out of Del Rio, you're going to drive for about 2 hours before you get to another town.
It's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's
whole lot of
wide open out there as far as, the country. And I think the closest town, if you're heading north.
West.
No. Well, if you go west, you're going to drive 2 hours. You got to get to, I believe, it's
west,
Sanderson.
Sanderson would be, because you're going to go northwest, I guess, to Sanderson, right?
Yeah, because you're basically going along.
Then that's that whole corridor. Sanderson's very beautiful, though.
Yes.
That part of the desert is very pretty. I went through there one spring when everything was in bloom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's there's a big motorcycle rally that goes on. I think
it has its own beauty out there. It definitely
There's a lot of beauty in Texas,
but it
folks.
is.
But don't come. We don't want you here.
But
we're full. The gates are closed. I'm just kidding. Come to Texas and enjoy, explore, and then make sure you go back home and enjoy and explore and stay in your land. Just kidding. I'm just messing with you. I always tell my friends that are from out of state, I'm like, you see how full we are, right? But no, we have a lot of vast open land.
Yeah,
a
lot of undeveloped country out here.
You and me, Armando, or how do you say you and I?
You and I.
You and I, like on Young Guns. You and I.
You and I.
You and I, and then he beats the guy up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I are very historical. We're history buffs, and we both know Texas history. And I wish that we could just do a show about Texas history.
Yeah, I
could give you the whole rundown from beginning to end.
That would be,
but that wouldn't be totally paranormal. So we can't.
No, it wouldn't be paranormal.
Do that? No.
But
we are very historical about it. Texas has a lot of history, as anybody knows. That we were our own country.
Yeah, we were the Republic of Texas.
The Republic of Texas. That's it. Mm-hmm. So let me get to this other story. Speaking of giant creatures, this is going to switch gears a little bit. I do have some other reptile stories, also from South Texas.
Oh, interesting!
But I don't want to get into that right now. We're gonna leave that for another show.
Well,
we're gonna talk
potluck,
about
so let's go with the one you got now.
So we're gonna switch gears here. But speaking of giant creatures,
hey,
guy sent me a story of a giant spider.
Those are out there. I've like I said, I'll just admit to the folks, I do. I'm quite the avid YouTube video guy because mostly podcasts, interviews, things like that. But every now and then there's a few channels I do watch, and they put out some decent videos, and of course they put out those reports. So you mentioning this giant spider has got me going now.
Yeah, and apparently this is in Belize, according to them, and that this happens. They come across these things every once in a while. They're about the size of a dog.
Oh my God!
According to what I have read. And he said that there was a Spanish newspaper publication that had actually announced that they had, that I guess somebody had killed one, but by the time they got out to the farm to see it, it was decomposed pretty bad.
Right.
But what he told me was that this was common, and that his grandfather had claimed that back in the 70s they actually ran over one with a vehicle.
Oh,
they were going down this back road. And this thing crossed over this dirt road, and it just kind of ran out in front of them, and they just splat. They just crunched right over it.
Correct.
And they said that it was the size of a large dog.
Wow.
And he said that this was not uncommon, and that he had heard these stories for years, but then when he was in his 30s, and he said that was back in like the 90s, that he actually saw one go across his property that was that big.
Dadgum.
Yeah, and he said that these things, they're some sort of species that may be undiscovered by science, but that it's a gray. I'm trying to remember how he said it, like the grayish color. He speaks very good English. He wasn't somebody that wasn't, so we communicated very well back and forth. But he said it was the color of like granite. That's what I think granite is what he used, what the word he used. And so, yeah, that was weird. And the legs were black. That's just very weird to me.
That's
interesting. A granite-colored spider, and they can be from. And now I asked him like slate. He didn't really understand what that was, but a granite, color, or to a beige.
Wow.
With black legs.
Well, Belize.
From what I hear, though, according to
got a lot of jungle out there.
Yeah, and he said that they will find like big birds wrapped up in webs. They'll find like small mammals wrapped up in webs, but as far as I know, they don't really tend to mess with humans. They just kind of like if you're there and they see you, they'll go away.
Well, it makes sense.
Thank God.
It makes sense.
Away, and I wish they would all go away. If you're listening, spiders, we don't want you here. Okay.
Yeah. Wolf has an
You're illegal
arachnophobia
on our planet. Go away. Some aliens came down and left them there and thought it would be funny or cute. That's what it is.
Hey, all I can think of right now is the circle of life. I'm hearing the music in my head right now. The circle of life. It's one of those things.
You know what? I saw a show one time on one of those learning channels where they teach you stuff, and it was crazy. It was talking about future life. Oh, and I'm not going to get into the channel. I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to get into it. But they said that at some point in our future that we're all going to be gone and that there's going to be just spiders everywhere and that this happened once in our past.
Or cockroaches.
Well, no, I mean, the spiders will be the dominant...
the dominant species?
The dominant predator, on the top predator, yeah. And then they also said the arthrocephalopods.
Yes.
Because I think a spider is technically an arachnid arthropod too, because it has the 8 legs. But the arthrocephalopods are octopuses and squids, and then those are actually going to be dominating, and they're going to come out and they're going to have their reign of terror over us.
It's hard to tell. They're
going to come out of the ocean and terrorize us.
I will be gone from this plane of existence.
They will get this small mountain cat to terrorize people. And so, yeah, you will be gone. Hopefully. I don't want to be living under the Cthulhu's rule or the giant spider that Godzilla fought. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that. I tell you what, though, the spider thing, it just horrifies me. It absolutely horrifies me because I don't like spiders. If I get a small spider and I had my nephew come out there and we together,
we
destroyed a spider like half the size of my the tip of my pinky. Together, we worked strong together.
Yeah, hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, we were getting after it, dude. I tell you what, we were moving things in the truck. We found the culprit, and he kind of acted smug. I could kind of see a smugness about him, like, yeah, I'm walking on your seat, dude. And so my nephew
fixed him right quick.
We did. My nephew just laid the smack down on him, like a stone cold stunner on that spider.
There you go.
And you know what? He's gone. That takes care of him.
Yes, folks.
Now imagine if you're moving seat cushions. He
has an arachnophobia.
I have an arachnophobia, absolutely. If you're moving your seat cushions and this huge spider jumps out at you, or acts arrogant like it's his land or something, no, we're not doing that. So what happened with these giant spiders, I guess
what else did he say? Yeah.
Well, he just said that one walked across his property and went back into the...
He didn't try to follow it or see where it was going? I mean,
no, because he's a normal human being.
From a distance,
I'm going to defend the guy and say he's probably a normal man who is not like you, who's not going to go walk into the web of death and get attacked by what's the spider from the Lord of the Rings, Shelob or whatever, that thing with the stinger.
Oh,
yeah, that's what you want. You want him to be killed like Frodo?
Hey, he does what he does, and I do what I do. I'd have to watch.
Do you see how hard it was for Frodo to kill? My gosh, Armando. He had to have help from, what's his name? From Rudy.
Oh, yeah. Samwise Gamgee.
That's right. He had to come in there. Rudy had to come in there and save him like he did Notre Dame in that movie that I don't even remember. But so you want to go walk. Who would want to go walk after that, Sal? Really?
I would. It's a spider.
I guess you jump in the water with that Predator X baby too.
No, I wouldn't do that one. No.
Okay. Good God.
But I would watch the spider.
Good gosh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this is a man. He's a man.
No, I'd have a shotgun with me, though.
Man.
Or I'd have my...
so you would just kill it then?
No.
I'm okay with that.
If it turned around on me, I'd just watch to see where it's going. Because see, if you know where it lives, then...
Well, I have seen several movies about how spiders do stuff.
Yeah.
And from what I know, people are freaking out and they're using flamethrowers. And that's what I remember is that they had to use like flamethrowers and all kind of stuff.
There's a thought. Yeah, I could have one of those.
I remember that movie with the guy from the Jim Carrey movie. I remember his name, but he was in arachnophobia, the whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
and so I remember Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is Oh no."
So what else you got? I mean, since this is the Paranormal Potluck, it's informal. We're just throwing those things out there because I don't know if you'd call it paranormal story. I received it secondhand from a family member, and basically this paranormal story, it involves seeing a light. So I was told this story, and I'll get into it. Take a couple of minutes to tell you the story. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he was one of those guys that just, walking around in the middle of the night didn't bother him. It was just one of those things. So he used to live about 5 miles out of town. This is in old Mexico, way, way back in the day. We're talking mid-50s, close to the 60s.
So at that time, you were only like, what, 12 or 13?
No. I wasn't even a twinkle in an eye yet.
I know.
So
just giving you a hard time.
Lived back about 5 miles out of town. This was small rural town and everything else. the talk around town, they'd talk about the light, and they would say it was the bruja, right? Well, my grandfather didn't believe in the bruja, the witch. Yeah, he didn't believe in the whole thing.
Why couldn't it be the lechuza?
That's a whole nother ball of wax there on that one. But the story is that my grandparents lived way out there about 5 miles out of town. And, of course, out there, my granddad had all the goats and so on and so forth. And he had quite a big herd, too. I remember that when I was a little bitty kid. We used to go out there. But the standard thing that would go on is it was isolated, goats, farm, the whole nine. Anytime any lights showed up in that area, it was from a vehicle, because owning a flashlight back then for my grandparents, that was a luxury. That was a huge luxury. So, anyways, my mother's younger siblings, they were a lot younger than her. It was only her and an older brother.
So what happened with the light?
So here's the thing. Both my mother and her older brother, my uncle, were married at the time. The rest of her siblings still at home. Lived out there far in the woods. Well, one night my grandfather had got done with everything, the chores and so on and so forth. And he just said, he told my grandmother, hey, I'm going to go into town. I guess he was going into the local cantina, and, go to the bar, drink a few beers, and then walk back home. Long story short, as he's walking away from the house, he turned around and he looked back in the direction of the house for some reason. I never got the whys, but he turned around and looked, and he saw a bright light back near where the house was. He knew his way around. He looks back and sees this light. How do you know
it wasn't headlights from a car?
That's the whole point. He was looking, he didn't believe the superstitions, so he just turned around. He thought it was either my mom and my dad or my uncle and my aunt that were showing up to come visit.
But why wouldn't it have been?
Well, that was the whole point. He walked all the way back to the house because that's what he thought. When he got to the house, asked my grandmother, so who showed up? Is it my son or is it my daughter?
And nobody was there.
And my grandmother basically looked at him like, what are you talking about? He said, I saw the lights. I was almost to town. And
was this the first time he'd ever saw the lights?
That's the only time. That's the only time. That's the only time.
So was there any legends of these lights? Because I know that in the Marfa lights, the Chinati Mountains, people see these lights. I don't
know
around.
How that would relate, but that
would be like spook lights.
Huh? Yeah, like the orbs.
How big would they be? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I've heard different things about the size of the orb, these orbs, as people call them. But I think my grandfather had an orb experience where he saw it from long distance. It must have been big for him to really just see it because there were a lot of large pecan trees, and I'm talking big ones that, a guy like you and I couldn't wrap our arms around them. Mm-hmm. That's how big they're big, they're old, and it got really dark in that area, which was perfect during the summertime because it provided great shade. That's why the little house was there. So that's the only time it happened to my grandfather, but he was never superstitious, so he just kind of he never talked about it like whatever. Must have been something, and nothing was ever said about it. But I did have one of my aunts, my mother's younger siblings, one of them. She relayed stories in relation to this light that, guess what? There were plenty of times that they were asleep in the house. And, of course, there was a crack at the bottom of the door, that they'd see the light come in there. So she said, we'd get up to see because we thought it was, she told me when she told me the story, she said, we thought it was your mom or we thought it was your uncle. We'd go out there, open the door, nothing. And she said, and that happened on several occasions to him out there, living out there. And I said, wow, that's freaky. So that's about the most paranormal story I got in my family that I know of. And I just thought of another one, but I can say that for the next time because I'm going to go back and talk to my mother about this old legend that it's a family legend, if you will. And there's a lot of little details that I have to get because she told me this story and it was a legend, and I just thought it was based on superstition and all this other stuff. But she told me the story, and I'd asked.
We don't have time to go over that right now.
That's going to be next time.
We're almost at time, folks. But next episode, I want you to stay tuned for the next episode when it comes out because we're going to talk about a haunted mirror, and this is a story that was given to me by somebody who listened to me on the Dogman show. And the story really creeped me out. It was unnerving. And then we're going to have a black-eyed kid story. Yeah, that I didn't experience, but I was kind of in the vicinity when it happened. Like I wasn't but I will tell you the story. And we're going to talk about maybe a black dog A few things we got lined up for the next show. So
definitely,
everybody just stay tuned to the next show. Be on the edge of your seats. Be waiting. Don't do anything all week. Actually, just wait for us to come back, and then you can live. All right? Good grief, people.
Oh, yeah.
So selfish.
So, hey, let's plug the email,
Everybody's
brother.
always wanting these luxuries like food and water and air.
Yeah, who needs air, right?
Man, just, you know what? Just wait and live and breathe what we tell you. All right? I'm just kidding. So anyways, we're going to plug the email one more time. It's daswolfman88@gmail.com. daswolfman88@gmail.com. Everyone, send me your weird, creepy stories. I want to hear the what's going on in your part of the universe. And you know what? Whatever part of the world you're from, whatever part of the universe you're from, Andromeda, Pleiades, is that what it's called? Pleiades?
Yeah, there's a lot of those constellations out there. Yes.
So anyway, wherever you're from, good night, good day.
And don't forget, folks, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Your events, your stories, we want to hear them. Have a good
Sayonara.